Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to our debate room. So, have you rang your motion for Tamhidi B and also for the FBG? Have you rang your motion?
Yes.
Oh, Alhamdulillah. So, you can drop your motion by rank in the chat box. Okay, government. What about the opposition? Opposition? Anyone? Okay, thank you. Okay. Uh, okay, so the motion that you guys will be debating about is motion 3, which is this house as Malaysia would heavily invest in traditional sports over global sports. I repeat, this house as Malaysia would heavily invest in traditional sports over global sports. So, do you clear about it? It's okay, I just assume that you guys clear that you're gonna be debating about motion number 3, like I said just now. So now I'm going to put you in the break room and you can discuss there. Excuse me, sorry for bothering you guys. May I know who the Prime Minister is? Anyone? Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. What about the Deputy Prime Minister? Okay, nice. Then about the government week. Ah, thank you, thank you. Cash, cash full. It's a Mr. or Miss? Mr. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Assalamualaikum. Sorry for bothering you guys. May I know who the leader of opposition?
Um, same. Oh, sorry. Same as last round.
Same as last
Ah,
round.
oh,
Same
do you want
as last
names?
round. Ah, yes, yes.
Okay. Sorry. Iman as the leader of opposition, Shazwani as the deputy leader of opposition, and Shafika as whip.
Oh, then for the reply speech, Miss Shazwani.
Yes, true.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Ingat, okay. Mr. Iman. Shazwani. Apa tadi ni, Miss? Okay. So, orang sama je ni je. First time. Akan ada adjudicator. ADG. Adjudicator. Aku ingat nama hang. Nick. Nick. Jom sekali tu Jannah tu. Jannah, Nick. Sekejap, sekejap. Aku kena tutup kamera. Tak, tak, tak. Aku tutup kamera je. Sis, 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 sis. Tolong percaya kat aku. Okay. Nick. Apa urut depan, urut depan. Radatul Jannah. Nampak? Yang Ramli. Nama macam nama atuk aku. Weh. Takkan kau makcik aku. Weh. Tak boleh, tak boleh. Tak boleh, tak boleh, tak boleh. Tak boleh, tak boleh lah. Tak boleh. Weh, 3 banyaknya. Sebab, oh, mak aku lah siut. Sebab, sebab kau muda 3 tahun dari aku. Tak ada, tak ada. Tak ada, tak ada. Dia tak jadi kat keluarga Ramli. Oh, iya ke? Kat apa? Betul-betul ada ke? Tak logiknya. Serius lah? Weh, macam mana? Macam mana nenek tu boleh dapat anak lagi? Tak. Nenek, weh. Nenek lewatnya dia melahirkan anak. Ada wujud tu kat atas dunia nyata. Aku percaya, aku percaya. Uish. Okay, lambat lagi 23 minit lagi. Sempat balik ke K1 beli air sebalik-balik sini. Nak aku buat. Sis. Nak. Nak tak? Nak aku buat? Sis, sis, sis. Nak tak? Nak aku pergi? Hmm. Tak ada lah. Mana ada aku pilih kau tu? Kau ni tu, kau apa tu? Aku bagi semua masuk tu. Selalu ada 3 kan? So aku tunggu ketiga-tiga. 3 tapi 5. 3 atau 5 series lah, ada 5. Alamak. Ni Khadijah ni macam aku pernah jumpa. Oh, yang ni yang dia puji seorang-seorang tu. Oh. Ah, that's one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got it, I got it. Ni semi-final. Ni semi-final. Dengar, ni semi-final kau cakap kan? Kau cakap ni semi-final kan? Dengar. Tak ada lah. Alamak, baru aku nak tegur mati Zizi ni. Hi, Assalamualaikum guys. So for the adjudicator, I just want to reconfirm. First we got Mrs. Khadijah. Am I right?
Yes.
Mrs. Khadijah. Then we got Mr. Amma as adjudicator. Am I right?
Yes. Betul.
Okay, thank you. Then Mr. Madi also as adjudicator. Adjudicator.
Miss Madia.
Miss. Oh, I'm sorry. Miss Madi. Miss Madi. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First, I want to make sure is all the government side here.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. What about the opposition? Are you guys here?
Yes, we are here.
Okay, thank you very much. First, I want to read the motion to let the adjudicator know what's our motion will be debate. Our motion going to be this house as Malaysia would heavily invest in traditional sports over global sports. So without the further ado, I think let's start our debate. Good evening, good evening, everyone. So before we start the debate, I would like to ask all the debaters to state your name and your position in the chat box. Starting from the government side, please drop your name, your position, and also who gonna be the one that give the reply speech. Okay, thank you for the government side. Now we go to the opposition side. Please drop your name, your position, and also who gonna be the one that give the reply speech. Okay, thank you for position. All right, the house will come to order. I'm pleased to welcome you all to this semi-final round of special edition of the Pro-Chancellor's Cup Debate Championship 2025 University Science Islam Malaysia. Allow me to reiterate that today's motion is this house as Malaysia would heavily invest in traditional sports over global sports. I'm Imran Ridwan and I will be the speaker for this session, and with me, Nick Radatajana will be the timekeeper for this room. Now, I will state the rule and order for this championship. Each debater will have 7 minutes to deliver his or her speech. The bell will ring once to indicate the first minute has ended, and points of information may be given. The bell will ring once after the 6 minutes mark and will ring twice at the end of the 7-minute speech. I would like to remind the members of the floor they may only raise points of information in the constructive speech and only after the first minutes and before the last minutes of the speech. You may turn on your mic to state your request for POIs. Also, please make sure that your internet connection is stable and your voice is audible. Okay, so is there any inquiries before we start? No. Okay, now let me introduce our members for today. Starting from the government side, we have Miss Dania as a Prime Minister. We have Miss Umaira as a Deputy Prime Minister. And for the government whip, we have Mr. Kashfu. Then for the opposition side, we have Mr. Iman as leader of opposition. Then we have Ms. Shazwani as a deputy leader of opposition. And for opposition whip, we have Ms. Shafika. Joining us today is also our educators, Ms. Khadija, Mr. Amma, and Ms. Madiha. Okay, with that, I call upon the Prime Minister to deliver his speech. Here.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good evening to the Honorable Chair, esteemed educators, and members of the House. So, as the Prime Minister today, I will stand proudly in proposition in the motion of this House as Malaysia would heavily invest in traditional sports over global sports. So, sports are not just a game, they are carriers of our culture. They show our national identity and social unity. So, while global sports like football or basketballs dominated the headlines, they often drown out the unique heritage and values that make us as Malaysia distinct. So in my speech, I will cover three things. So the traditional sports are crucial for Malaysia's cultural preservation and national pride, and why they bring greater societal and development benefits if we compare it to global sports, and heavily invest in them actually create sustainable growth for Malaysia's sporting future. So let us begin with culture. As we all know, Malaysia is a nation that is rich with diversities. We have a lot of races such as Malay, Chinese, Indians, and a lot more. So all of these races have their own traditional games, such as sepak takraw, silat, and uh, dibolo spinning. So these are not just used as hobbies. They actually they actually shows about our identity as of who we are. So if Malaysia invest heavily in if if Malaysia invests heavily in global sports like football, we will end up competing in a saturated and Western dominated field where our identity is being covered. So, do we really believe that Malaysia will ever outspend or even outshine famous clubs such like England or Brazil? So, but when we invest in our own, we can shine. So let's take silat as example. It is not just a martial art, but um, uh, a, a cultural performance. And it is even recognized by UNESCO. So when our athletes succeed in silat, they carry the Malaysia flag on their backs and proudly shows about who we are as Malaysia. So by heavily investing in traditional sport, means we can show our unique voice towards the world stage. So instead of being just another follower of the global trends, Malaysia can be the leader in showcasing Southeast Asia culture through sport. So that is how we build national pride. So second, let us consider about the societal impact. Um, no. Global sports tend to concentrate wealth and attention in elite institution. So when we building our football club, we need big stadiums, high salaries, and international clubs. But who will get the benefits? Of course, the athletes and the corporation, and they weren't even Malaysia. Uh, how what about our own citizens? They will still remain as mere spectators. So, in contrast, traditional sports is actually community based. Um, we can practice silats we usually practice silats in village across from the country. So and sepak takraw usually is played in every schoolyard. So these are accessible and cheap to play and very inclusive to all Malaysians regardless of their background. So by heavily investing in traditional sport, Malaysia can strengthen our community bonds and promote active lifestyles and reduce inequality in access to sporting opportunity. So for those who doesn't have a budget to pursue in sports, they can enter these traditional sports. So we are not just building champions. We are building healthier and united citizens. So ask yourself, should Malaysia pour billions into chasing global recognition in football where we rarely qualify for the World Cup? Or should we invest in sports where every Malaysian can participate, can feel represented and develop lifelong skills? And lastly, sustainable. So global sports are expensive to maintain. So I'm going to take football again as the example. So we usually use imported coaches, massive stadiums, and even the players itself are not from the locals. They doesn't even speak Malay, and they doesn't even live in Malaysia nor speak Malay. Yet, despite decades of investment, Malaysia remains far behind in global rankings. So the return of the investment itself is very weak. Um, but in traditional sport, the return is very high. So and the infrastructure itself is very affordable. So we can use community halls for silat or even local courts for takraw. So and our citizens itself have a lot of potential to become the athletes. While the international market is also growing, they can participate in SEALITE, Asian Games, SEA Games. All these platforms actually provides for us to dominate. So in conclusion, this motion is about identity, empowerment, and sustainable. So if Malaysia pours its heart into global sports, we remain just another competitors in crowded field. But if we heavily invested in our traditional sport, we preserve our culture, strengthens our society, and build a future where Malaysia does not follow the world but leads. This is not about rejecting global sports. It's actually putting our own first. So for this reason, I am proudly to propose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to the Prime Minister for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 10 seconds. Now, I would like to call upon Leader of Opposition to deliver his speech. The floor is yours. Here.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, under the motion this House would heavily invest in traditional sports over global sports, we, in the opposition side, strictly oppose this motion. Members of the floor, imagine this. Malaysia put all its eggs in the baskets of traditional sports. We lose our badminton sport, starts at the Olympic. Our football team disappear and the world stops noticing us. We become proud but invisible. The opposition side firmly oppose this motion. The government wants you to believe that Prioritize traditional sports, build cultural pride. But our side will show you that will show you that over investing in traditional sports undermines Malaysia as international competitiveness, weaken national unity, and waste opportunities in global sporting platforms. In our world, Malaysia is visible, respected, and competitive globally. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I will start with my rebuttals. The government side is trying to globalize and give the heavily invested in the traditional sport, but they fail to show to us, and we got a little confused how they want to apply it, how they want the investment is being implemented on the traditional sport. Second, they say that the global sport is hard to sustain. And ladies and gentlemen, that is why we need that investment, we need that fund on that sport, because the global sport will give us more opportunity and recognition on the global. And that it will be explained in my arguments. Third, they stated that the return of global sports week. Also, this I will explain in my argument. So, our counter mechanism is, so instead of heavily invest of traditional sport, we should keep on investing naturally on global sports like badminton, football, diving, and focusing on less popular sport which have a lot of potential and global market like dodgeball, for example. Why? This is because these sports have high growth potential and international recognition. Traditional sports may still exist culturally, but they are not the priority for national funding because they lack of global market appeal. I will start with my first argument. Under the key points of global sports give bigger return. The core is not that traditional sports are unimportant, but that sports funding must generate the highest possible return for society. Traditional sports have limited market reach, little sponsorship, interest, and weak professional pathway. By contrast, global sports have are already backed by billion-dollar ecosystem, meaning every dollar invested in them bring a back far more in revenue, tourism, scholarship, and prestige. Yes, we want to invest. Like I said on my counter mechanism. Yes, we want to invest on potential sport. But let's take example like a general example like or the already globalized sport like badminton. Many return that they give to our economy, like tournament that held in Malaysia like Petronas Open or Malaysia Open. Many fans will go to Malaysia just to see them play the game, and that's where the country get what has then been invested. And now imagine we invest on the potential sport like dodgeball, who are still society see as a small sport, even they rank quite higher in the world ranking. In reality, all their own players need to use their pocket money to join international tournament. And they still don't even have a good facility to train and strengthen their strength and dominate on that sport. If government heavily invested to traditional sport that has proven to the world win the international games are being neglected. We miss the chance to be one of the pioneer and global dominator in one of the modern sports. With enough funded coming from the government, they can improve in many factors, like they can improve their facility, hire more good coaches, and in a long-term effect, we potential to host World Championship and have a big return to economy itself. Or one day, Malaysia could have been the dodgeball powerhouse, but we in the risk of missing this window of opportunity. If the investment is going to the traditional sport, Malaysia billions in long-term sport economy. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we overinvest in traditional sport, we risk cultural preservation at the cost of economic growth, international prestige, and opportunities for our youth. Global sports are not just games, they are passports to the world stage. True progress comes from balance, not bias. Culture can be preserved without sacrificing competitiveness. Therefore, the opposition stands firm, investing heavily in traditional sports over global sports would do more harm than good. So, our best case scenario, if the motion falls, Malaysia can dominate in global and emerging sports, gaining recognition and sponsorship and opportunities. So that, again, in the opposition side, we proudly to oppose this house would heavily invest in traditional sport over global sport. And with that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you to the leader of opposition for the speech. The speaker spoke for 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Now, I would like to call upon Deputy Prime Minister to deliver his speech. The floor is yours. Here.
I will start my speech in three, two, one. Ladies and gentlemen, today I will demonstrate why our case is better. First, I will conclude my points, which is cultural heritage, national and regional competitions, and lastly, creative industries. But before that, let me do rebuttal from the government side team. But the prime minister speak the the leader of opposition speaker argued that traditional sport is less known to the society. However, they fail to acknowledge that because of they doesn't know our traditional sport, we need to invest more on traditional sport so they will know our traditional sport. Back to my argument, which is cultural heritage and national identity. Traditional sports like sepak takraw and silat, and the important reflection of Malaysia's unique, diverse cultural heritage. Supporting them helps preserve and promote national identity, especially multi-ethnic society. It also fosters unity through shared cultural values across different ethnic groups, such as Malay, Chinese, and Indian. Each ethnic or races brings its own traditional sports, rituals, and values. For government role, safeguarding for government role, maybe they will empower this cultural heritage by safeguarding intangible cultural heritage. UNESCO defines traditional sports as tangible cultural heritage. The Malaysian government's investment helps document, promote, and pass down these practices to future generations, which also can prevent cultural erosion. So, uh, in addition, it will also bring national unity through cultural events by organizing festivals, cultural days, or heritage games. The government promotes interaction among ethnic groups, encouraging respect and shared national identity. Traditional sports that represent identity such as silat, like my first speaker said, recognized by UNESCO, reflects Malay martial tradition and philosophy. So, to my second point, which is economic diversification and creative industry. Traditional sports can fit into creative industry such as fashion, film or documentary, production, and merchandising. It opens up entrepreneurial opportunities for youth and also be monetized and integrated into Malaysia's creative and digital economy. This is said because media documentaries or films centered on traditional sports like uh, Still Warriors, Dead of Deaths create demand for local stories, fashion. So for fashion, inspired by traditional game attire can appear in local and international fashion shows. So for costume, traditional sports costume used in ceremonial performance such as maybe school sport team, such as they will ask to they will ask to wear traditional sports costume that can fit into Malaysia's heritage fashion industry. Uh, Sorry. So for it, it will affect to long-term economic benefits, which empowers rural communities and artisans, supports youth entrepreneurship, and also
I'm sorry, POI.
sorry, diver- and also diversifies revenue streams beyond palm oil, tourism, or manufacturing. National, Lastly, national and regional competition. National and regional competition. National and regional competition. Traditional sports can be showcased in national games like Suma and SEA Games. So, like the leader of opposition asked how to invest in traditional sport. So, I will elaborate at this point. Traditional sports can be showcased in national games like Suma or SEA Games or even Olympic itself. It promoted strategically developing elite athletes in these sports can help raise Malaysia's profile on the regional and global stage, which also uh, the government can introduce traditional sport in school curriculum, developing professional athletes in traditional sports. For example, traditional sports in national game such as Sukma, what it mainly features, Sukma is the Malaysian games that national sports event aimed at developing young athletes. So, why it mainly features national sports like athletes and football? There's increasing advocacy to include traditional sports like silat and sepak takraw. For example, sepak takraw. Right now, sepak takraw gain recognition from all over the world. For instance, United States of America recently held sepak takraw in their country. So, how the world would look like under our house? So how the world how the world would look like under our house? Uh, if the Malaysian government commits to heavily investing in traditional sports, they will Malaysia will be culturally rich and unified society. Traditional sports like silat and sepak takraw are thriving nationwide. These games are taught in schools, promoted in media, and practiced across ethnic groups. In summary, the Malaysia government's investment in traditional sports is not just about games. It's a strategic move to protect cultural heritage, boost tourism and rural development, and also promote youth engagement. So, we from the side of government strongly believe that the government should invest heavily in traditional sports than global sports. Thank you.
Thank you to the Deputy Prime Minister for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 10 seconds. Now, I would like to call upon Deputy Leader of Opposition to deliver her speech. The floor is yours. Here.
I'll be beginning my speech in 3, 2, 1. Today, I, as the second speaker from the opposition side, would like to highlight three things in my speech. The first thing I'll be doing is giving my rebuttals to the second speaker from the government. Secondly, I'll be extending the argument from my first speaker from our opposition side. And thirdly, I'll be giving two arguments on our side. So we, on the opposition, believe that we should not heavily invest in traditional sports over global sports. Well, that is our stance, and our stance is clear. I'll be beginning with rebutting. So the second speaker, which is the Deputy Prime Minister from the government side, have mentioned things about how the traditional sports like silat are being recognized by UNESCO. However, we think that they are becoming too assumptive because we believe that silat is maybe recognized internationally, but more mainly as a cultural sport and not as a mainstream global sport like badminton and footballs. Next, they also mentioned that they are trying to they would heavily invest in these traditional sports through over global sports because they can see that traditional sports is getting better through Kasuma, for example, through the curriculum developing programs in schools that are taught in school. However, if you say so, why does this already exist parts still does not show any very impactful product? Okay, even if it's true, we still don't see the potential and how far these traditional sports will go. That's why we from the opposition side would like to oppose this, and we are looking in the bigger picture to actually invest more on the global sports that have already exist, such as the Malaysian teams in football and badmintons, and also in the less popular sports that are not really more recognized by people, such as the dodgeball, the Malaysian dodgeball team that have actually gone gone up, but still doesn't get the hype and doesn't get the same hype as the badmintons. You know, the Lizzie Jia as the picture of badminton. So next, I'll be moving on to the extending the first argument coming from my first speaker. So he stated that we believe that global sports actually give us back a bigger return. So that's why we wanted to invest more on global sports, right? Because it gives benefits to society, and every single dollar that is in every single ringgit that is invested are giving back the benefits to the society, to tourism and sponsorship. And we also can increase the facilities, increase more good coaches, and this will get directly improve the income in our economy and improve our economic stability. So he also mentioned about bringing dodgeball to a more hype sport, so that we can get this bigger return in the eyes of worldwide globally. So I'll be moving on to our argument. So the first argument from our side is that we believe that if we do so as what the government wants, they want to heavily invest in traditional sports over global sports. This is actually risking the Malaysia's growth globally, because if the root problem here is if Malaysia's always investing more on traditional sport, we are actually risking to make our country become more isolated from the global sporting community, because we ourselves stand as a developing country. And then why does this solution exist? Because let us be clear, dodgeball is a sport that has existed globally. Our team also stands for the badminton and football sports. So these are already existed sports in Olympics. So we can see that if we increase the funding in global sports, we can actually improve this economic stability and not allowing us to be risking to isolate our country from the global sports community. So we actually see more potential in this. So why is this true? Because when we fund these global sports wisely, we can actually stay competitive in Olympics, Asian Games, and SEA Games. As we can increase the maintenance needs, and we can increase the maintenance and the needs of potential athletes. So that more Malaysian athletes can get professional opportunities abroad, and Malaysia can actually increase the international image and be more well known. So the government might over prioritizing the heritage sports, but we are trying to approach, we are taking an approach to growth our economy widely and globally. Secondly, is our argument is that we believe that traditional sports can actually survive with other alternatives. So what is the root problem here? Traditional sports are obviously a part of our identity, but we don't think that they require full reliance on heavy government side that the government have to invest everything to survive, because we have a lot of solution other ways, such as doing the annual cultural festivals, art exhibition. For example, in Georgetown, they also held this kind of festivals that increase the popularity of gaining the attraction of tourists. So through here, we are trying to using this such as sports heritage exhibition to increase the traditional sports without increasing the funding to the traditional sports too much. Okay, so why is this true? Because the traditional sports can continue to grow, and the tourism through these tourism programs and activities, so that we can actually improve the Malaysia's athletes development better. With that, I raise my case.
Okay, thank you to the deputy leader of opposition for the speech. The speaker spoke for 6 minutes and 55 seconds. Now, I would like to call upon Government Whip to deliver her speech. The floor is yours. Here.
Testing, 1, 2. Can you hear me? So I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Mr. Speaker, honorable educators, ladies and gentlemen, as the government whip, my role is not to bring two new arguments, but to crystallize this debate, clash directly with the opposition, and wait why the government side clearly wins. This debate clearly asks, should Malaysian heavily invest in traditional sport over global sport? We on the government say yes, because this is how Malaysia presents culture, build a unique global identity, strengthening its economy through niche advantages, and empower the masses instead of just the elites. But before all that, I'm gonna say back the point that the deputy leader of the opposition said. So they got to correct the deputy leader of the opposition said Nizija is actually an independent player that didn't actually require government money. He find his own sponsor and funded himself. He was not recruited by BAM, which is the Badminton Association of Nations, to correct you. And as for the opposition living under the rock, recently Malaysia held Sepak Takraw World Cup, which was held literally in Malaysia. That was joined by Germany, Japan, USA, and a lot of more countries. This shows that Sepak Takraw had a potential that can go to a global stage. So, firstly, I want to rebut all the government speech just now. Firstly, all the opposition say just now. Firstly, opposition say global sport put Malaysia on the world stage. But recognition is a global sport is shallow and fragile. One badminton star like Lee Chong Wei made us proud when he retired, Malaysia faded from the global spotlight. Football, we have never reached the World Cup either. And in fact, our football player, most of the players doesn't even born in Malaysia. They're just a mixed player. So why do we want to invest in this? We didn't get the return of investment. In contrast, traditional sport give us permanent recognition. Correct, it should The South Korea is known for Taekwondo, Japan for Sumo, Thailand for their Muay Thai. This nation built prestige from their heritage. Malaysia can do the same with Silat and Sepak Takraw. So opposition offer borrow recognition that disappear when we lose. Government offer lasting prestige that Malaysia owns forever. Next, opposition say global sports bring more sponsorship and revenue to our country. That money goes to countries that dominate Europe such as Europe in football, China in badminton. Malaysia cannot outcompete them no matter how much we spend. So why would we spend on them? It just wastes our taxpayer money. But in traditional sport, we set the rules, we control the leagues and connect them to cultural tourism. Tourists don't come to Malaysia for another football match. They come for a unique experience like Silat Festival or Sepak Takraw World Cup. So opposition sets an unrealistic dream of global riches. Government deliver a sustainable economic niche where Malaysia is now leader, not the follower. Next, opposition say global sports create pathway like Olympics. We can go to Olympics and gain recognition, right? But who benefits? Only the top 1% of Malaysia go to the Olympics. Out of millions of Malaysian footballers, not one plays in the World Cup. One of the 1,000 badminton players, maybe two reach international recognition. Traditional sports empower everyone. They are cheaper, more accessible, rooted in their every community. With investment, 1,000 athletes, not just elites, can get scholarship, career, and recognition. Have you seen any Aborigine player play football? Have you seen any Aborigine player play badminton? No, you don't. You don't. Next is operation build opportunity for a handful of elites. Government empower the masses across Malaysia. Next is opposition say we should balance both, but balance is a myth. Balance is a myth. Over 90% of funding already goes to global sports. Balance means traditional sport remain neglected and slowly die out. Heavy investment is the only way to revive them and bring them onto equal footing. Without it, they disappear completely. Opposition maintain a broken status quo. Government says revive our traditions. Next is on the prestige, opposition say global sports give fame, but fame in borrowed sports fades. Government gives Malaysia permanent prestige through ownership of Silat and Sepak Takraw. On the money, opposition dreams of global revenue. Reality, Malaysia cannot compete with the big countries such as Europe and China. Government create a monopoly advantages in traditional sports. As we all know, when we invest in the sport, we have to pay for we have to pay to join the tournament and such as. Do we get the return of investment rather than we actually help them? Do the return of investment is higher? No. If the traditional sport give more return of investment in the long time, not even long time, even if we do it now, it is bring more return of investment. Next, on the athlete itself, opposition say global sport give careers. In the reality, 99% of Malaysians never got there. Malaysia never get there. Government provide massive opportunity through grassroots and traditional sport. So right now, we have a lot of like a football academy like AMD and some stuff, right? A lot of sports schools. But where does the players go? Where does they go? No, not all of it go to the Olympics. Not all of the Aborigine family on the Sabah Sarawak join the Olympics. No, only 1% of it, which is actually like the richer, the rich one, the Wuhan who have cable. They are the only one who got it. So on the balance, opposition say balance, meaning it is vague and meaningless. Without heavy investment, balance is impossible. Government provides the only real plan to revive and sustain the sport. So, on the clearer vision and model, we show how investment will be applied in school, infrastructure, leagues and tourism, media and athlete and sport. That's how we want to implement it. I repeat, we will like do a co-curricular in schools. We will build the infrastructure, leagues and tourism, and also promote it on media and also give the athlete full support of it. This is what the opposition leader asked us just now. So we give it. On the bigger impact, we deliver national pride, lasting identity, grassroots opportunities, and sustainable economic growth. Opposition deliver a shallow prestige and unrealistic promise. Through the government makes us a global leader in its own right. Opposition keep us chasing recognition in sport we can never dominate. So, Mr. Speaker, this debate is about Malaysian future. Opposition clings to the status quo. We remain irrelevant in sports and our traditions slowly die. Government offers a bold alternative, invests heavily in traditional sport, preserves our culture, build global identity, and empower our people and secure the economic sustainability. So for all this reason, the government side is too proud to propose the this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the government whip for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 9 seconds. Now, I would like to call upon opposition whip to deliver her speech. The floor is yours. Here.
Am I audible? Okay. I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Under the motion that this House would heavily invest in traditional sports over global sports. On our side, on the opposition, we do not want to invest in traditional sport over global sports. So, as per our mechanism from earlier, we mentioned that instead of heavily invest in traditional sport, we would keep on investing on global sports that have like good reputations, and also on less popular sports. For example, we have dodgeball. Those sports have potential to actually go far if we keep on investing on them. So okay, so the biggest what I will do today is first explain I will explain the clash of today's debate and reaffirm the points coming from our side. So the biggest clash of today's debate is actually cultural identity and also global progress. So on their side, they believe that they want to protect cultural identity because they believe that day by day culture we are experiencing cultural erosion. But on our side, we already mentioned to you how there are other alternatives as to how we can actually promote avoid having cultural erosion. For example, as mentioned by my second speaker earlier, we can have festivals. We have festivals. We have campaigns and so on, curricula at school, things like that can actually help in preventing cultural erosion. And but on our side, but on their side, they only see the way they only see that the only way to actually prevent cultural erosion is to actually heavily invest in it on traditional sport and neglecting the global sport. And that is why I believe they fail to actually they fail to win to this debate, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, sorry. Okay. So about global progress, they on our side we believe that we mention we okay globally because okay as per mentioned by my speakers earlier, global sports okay sports that global sport are existing sports that exist on global stage, right? So that is why we want to invest in these sports instead of traditional sport because let's take a look at the time taken and the efficiency of the progress. So on your side, you want to promote traditional sports on the global stage, but how do you want to do that? And how many and sorry and how much time will it take to actually bring them to the global stage? For example, as per mentioned, we already have Silat that is recognized by UNESCO and on ASEAN, on SUMA and so on and everything. But that alone takes a very long time to actually be recognized. So how do you actually prove that those are very efficient in order for us to grow globally? And what are the sorry? So will the current investment on global sport? Okay, so on we sorry, but here. So on the side of their world, on the government world, it takes time, not efficient, little to no return of investment. Okay, so coming from their side also, they mentioned that the that okay, traditional sport are less known. That is why we need to invest. Okay, so we question times and times again because we are not clear as to how you want to actually bring them to the global stage. And you mentioned about gaining recognition for the sports, right? So, for example, we have Muay Thai, we have for Thailand, and Taekwondo for Korea. So, when people mention Muay Thai, oh, people understand, oh, that is uh, That is the culture of that certain identity or the certain nation. But then again, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about progress globally. So in this case, what we lose some, we gain some. Okay. So on their side, they want to preserve culture, identity, and so on, but it takes a lot of time, effort, progress, that will actually lead, can that are risky, that can actually lead to nowhere, ladies and gentlemen. And again, they mentioned about we cannot fight against country that are for example big countries, right? Sports, they are dominated by China, by US, and so on. Okay, we acknowledge that that might be true, but then again, you cannot exclude the less popular sport that has high potential. For example, we have dodgeball, right? So dodgeball actually have for our country actually have a good ranking in the world ranking. So, by my speaker earlier, he mentioned that they actually have to give up their own money and so on, their own effort, and because but then again, there's no quite exposure for them. So that is why we want to invest in them, because they have potential in the global market that will actually eventually help the growth of our nation globally. Um, sorry. Okay, so on our side, if the motion falls, we believe that Malaysia will actually dominate in global and emerging sport, which gaining recognition, sponsorship, and opportunity. While on their side, they will stunt the growth of our nation and continue to make our country less visible to the world stage. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I'm proud to oppose.
Okay, thank you to the opposition for the speech. The speaker spoke for 6 minutes and 20 seconds. Okay, now both the government and opposition are being given 1 minute to prepare their reply speech, and the 1 minute starts now. Okay, the time is up. Now, I want to call the speaker from the opposition side to deliver their reply speech. Here, here.
I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judges, ladies and gentlemen, now I, as the second speaker from the opposition side, is here to give the reply speech from our side. So I'm going to do two things today. The first thing, I'll be pointing out the weakness that is coming from the side of government. And secondly, I'll be highlighting the strength and why our side wins. The first weakness is that the opposition actually, from starting from the first speaker from the government, I believe that they actually did not explain the mechanism clearly to us. So we did not understand how does by heavily investing in traditional sports over global sports would benefit us. Well, they might say that they are catering to only local, they are trying to make this happen through those activities like Kasuma. However, just as stated by my third speaker, we believe from the opposition side, we believe that this in reality, this will actually takes a longer time to be recognized. So a lot more time, a lot of effort, but at the end of the day, we don't see what is the product and result at the end of the day. We think that they are still thinking in a narrow way that as we couldn't see how the other how this by increasing the fund to traditional sports could bring could bring the traditional sports to the global to the eyes of the globals. Okay, and now I'll be moving on to why our side wins this debate. So our strength is that from my first speaker, he stated clearly on how our counter mechanism will works into this debate. We mentioned that by we are trying to increase the fund in global sport and less popular sport. Global sports such as badminton, footballs, and less popular sport such as dodgeball, because we have, as mentioned before, we have the teams, our Malaysian teams in dodgeball. However, it is less popular. So if we increase this fund, this will actually help to also increase the economic returns to our country. Second, we also have better alternatives that can be done. We opt for more strategies as we think traditional sports can be enhanced, can be improved through other ways, as mentioned before, such as doing annual cultural festivals, sports heritage exhibition, that actually will increase the popularity and attract the tourists to our country. And we believe our mechanism will take shorter time, to be proven, because these sports are already existing in global, right, in Olympics itself. So if they are already existing, we surely can increase the possibility and potential to get the end product. And to sum up our points is that from my first speaker, he stated that by doing so, we can actually gives bigger return to the global and to the from the global sports. We can also reduce in risking Malaysia's growth globally, because we are going to isolate ourselves and become less developed when we did not increase the funding increase the funding in global sports. And thirdly, we believe that traditional sports can actually survive with more better strategies. With that, I thank you.
To the opposition sides. Now, to conclude, let's welcome the speaker from the government side to give their reply speech. Here.
I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. So, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of today's debate, this House must ask one simple question: should Malaysia invest in building its own sporting identity, or should it chase after recognition in a global field where we are forever second class? So the opposition may be romanticize the global sports, but in truth, they actually offer Malaysia nothing more than false hope and dependency. So the proposition show you a path of pride, community, and sustainable. So first things first, the culture. We told you that traditional sports like silat and sepak takraw are not just games; they are part of our souls as Malaysian. So every ringgit spent on them strengthens our heritage, inspire national pride, and lets Malaysia shine as unique on the global stage. And how can we actually invest in them? Like my deputy prime minister always already say, we can introduce traditional sports in